When it comes to sexual violence, it's important to know the facts. But there are just a few other things you should know. Sexual violence includes rape and any other unwanted sexual contact or experience. About 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men have experienced sexual violence in the form of physical contact at some point in their lives. Violence starts early. Before the age of 18, 8.5 million women first experienced rape. Victims of sexual violence can experience depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. Sexual violence impacts everyone. Its effects ripple through families, neighborhoods, and workplaces. But we all play a role in its prevention. Public health, businesses, schools, communities, and you can work together to stop sexual violence from happening in the first place. It's about addressing and understanding the root cause of why people single others out for cruel or unjust treatment. It's about promoting attitudes and behaviors for equality and respect. It's about implementing bystander intervention training, meaning teaching people when to stand up and speak out, creating safe spaces, and encouraging healthy relationships for everyone.
Well, personally, I think media कोई role play नहीं करता. Being very honest, either it is a topic for them for movie or it can be a topic for them for any series. I don't believe कि media कोई भी role play करता है in any kind of a way.
I don't think so. Media is portraying any such role because they're usually silenced. Whenever there is something to talk about, they don't do it or they just show one side of the picture. There are so many cases which don't even reach court, which don't even reach media, and nothing is done about it. So yeah, I feel like there needs to be more awareness of what's going on. There needs to be, it should be out there in the public, in social media and the mainstream media both. Then again, there are so many people who are, whenever there is abuse happening, or when there is, let's say, even marital abuse that's happening, no one talks about it. And women and children are mostly silenced. That you should not talk about it. It's family ki izzat ka sawal and all of those things come forward. So yeah, I believe that's what I'd say about the role of media. It's not doing what
I think media plays an important role in encouraging sexual violence because the content that is available is accessible to everybody. And as a matter of fact, children who are way younger, probably in their pre-teens, and they're watching content that is not appropriate of their age. So media, since it's accessible to everybody, it is making a change because of more exposure. Children, youngsters, teens, they know about a lot of things maybe which wasn't supposed to be known by them until a certain age. But yes, they do become mature at a very early age and they have access to a lot of information that is primarily not appropriate for them.
They feel shame in discussing it, and personally I think there shouldn't be any problem in discussing sexual violence. We should definitely aware our students related to this. Also I think कि educational institutes में आपको sort of workshops रखनी चाहिए based on this. It is okay to keep these workshops. आपको awareness करनी चाहिए. It is important because जब तक आप ये नहीं करेंगे, how are our students going to be aware of?
टीचर जो है इस चीज़ के बारे में स्टूडेंट्स को बिल्कुल नहीं गाइड करते, वो इस वजह से भी कि कुछ उनकी एज ऐसी होती है कि उनमें इतनी मैच्योरिटी नहीं होती, कुछ पेरेंट्स भी उनकी इतनी ग्रूमिंग नहीं हुई होती, तो स्कूल लेवल पे इस चीज़ के बारे में बिल्कुल भी गाइड नहीं किया जाता और कॉलेज लेवल पे भी ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. हाँ, यूनिवर्सिटी लेवल में कम्प्लीटली तौर पर जब स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं प्रॉपर डिफरेंट एनवायरनमेंट में एक्सपोज होते हैं तो उनको इन चीज़ों को फेस करना पड़ता है प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में डायरेक्टली जाकर.
I'm not sure if it's still going on or not. I'm not sure about it, so I cannot comment on it. But if it is happening that you are skipping the chapter of reproduction from the curriculum, that's a big red flag because I mean it's nature, it's natural, it's a natural process. Everyone should be aware of it. So students should be knowing about this topic of birds and bees. Parents should be educating their children. They should be giving their children the talk. Usually it happens that so we're all growing up. While we're growing up, we're not sure what's going on with our bodies, and we go to our friends. We don't because we feel shy to talk about it with our parents. So what we do is we go to, because right now everything is available on social media, but it's not showing us in the right amount of light. So it can be done through education. It can be done through your teachers. There should be, I don't know,
This Asian subcontinent or a basic background, we do not talk to our children in a very clear way. We don't tell them about the do's and don'ts or about the good or bad because there is an invisible circle, there is an invisible boundary between us and probably our parents. So most of the time, things which are like very sensitive matter, they are not addressed by parents. So instead of children finding out a lot of information on their own by probably surfing on internet or getting to know something from a friend, it would be better if it is addressed in a formal environment.
पहले तो नहीं होता था ऐसे, but I think that now they are very much supportive because this is the most common thing in today's society.
मेरे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तो ऐसा मुझे नहीं लगता कि लोग इस बारे में अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, क्योंकि लोग है ना बहुत एम्बेरसमेंट फील कर रहे होते हैं और कहते हैं कि ना बताओ किसी को, हमारी इज्जत का सवाल है, दबा देते हैं उस बात को ना, ऊपर मतलब बात ही नहीं लेके जाते। अगर किसी के साथ कोई इंसिडेंट हो गया, कोई वाकया हो गया, तो उसे मतलब उस टॉपिक पर बात ही नहीं करना देते।
people are supportive in our society about these issues because हमारी सोसाइटी के अंदर यही है कि लोग जो होते हैं ज़्यादातर क्रिटिसाइज़ करते हैं, वो ये नहीं देखते कि विक्टिम है तो उनका कोई फॉल्ट नहीं है या कुछ भी है, वो बस क्रिटिसाइज़ करना शुरू कर देते हैं, ना तो उस चीज़ के बारे में इन्वेस्टिगेट करते हैं ना कुछ भी। और वो यही समझते हैं कि अगर गर्ल्स हैं तो उनकी ड्रेसिंग प्रॉपर नहीं है इस वजह से या कुछ भी, वो विक्टिम को ही ज़्यादा इतना कर देते हैं, एम्बेरस कर देते हैं या उनको क्रिटिसाइज़ करते हैं, इतना टॉन्ट करते हैं कि वो विक्टिम खुद ही इस चीज़ को अपने ऊपर इतना हावी कर लेते हैं और एम्बेरसमेंट फील करने की वजह से वो अपनी वॉइस रेज ही नहीं करते। तो सोसाइटी इस लिहाज से बिल्कुल भी सपोर्टिव नहीं है, बहुत ज़्यादा क्रिटिसाइज़ करते हैं लोगों को।
Things are changing, things are evolving, and if we talk about our previous generations, they were very, what's the right word? They were very shy or they were very shameful to talk about these things if they were happening. Women were often silenced. As I said, family is a there was honor killing as well, which was happening in the 2 decades back. It's still happening, but it's mostly in the rural areas. So I feel like things are changing, but there's not a drastic change. It needs to happen drastically.
As compared to past, probably yes, because people have become more empathetic over a few years, or probably if I talk about the generations, I think us millennials, we are cycle breakers in many ways. There are a lot of generation cycles that we're trying to break also according to a study. Millennials are trying to break a lot of family cycles. So yes, I think people have become a little more empathetic as compared to past, but I wouldn't say that they've become completely empathetic because people have their own opinion. So let's say if you have a scenario of sexual violence, so you would have most of the people victim blaming, indulgent victim blaming, and very few of those would actually want to understand what the victim is going through. So it's still a work in progress.
Me, being a human being, a single person, how can I help this whole world to end sexual violence? I cannot. But definitely, in my surrounding, I can, and I will try my best to spread awareness on it, and I will try my best to make it a very common topic for them to discuss.
I talk about cyber harassment and bullying and blackmail that happens usually with young children, I talk about it. So I feel like I'm doing my little bit, but every step counts, every drop counts. So it's just a drop in the ocean. Okay, so as I mentioned, there are so many cases that don't even reach court. People are often even when they're reported, there are legal loopholes. The authorities, they're not very supportive, and people are usually they escape the punishments, and in rural areas.
Very important to teach our girls about consent, and it's very important for them to understand these very sensitive matters so they do not get manipulated at any time in their life. So talking about my school, last year we had this little activity where an organization called it was an NGO. They tried to educate children, tried to educate girls about consent and obviously the problem with sexual violence. But it was again once in a year thing, and we never talked about it ever again. And also again, as I said earlier, if we try to talk about it at school in the class, it might not sit well. It might not sit well with the parent body. They might not be happy with us discussing these very sensitive matters. Often, I think most of the time, not everybody has the guts to speak up, and not every girl is comfortable with coming out and announcing, I've been through this, so I need help. And if it has ever happened, so we've seen that people are more into victim blaming, and because of victim blaming, it kind of discourages other girls or boys who are going through the same scenario. So I don't think they get enough help or they get enough validation from the